That's a lie. I am here. I'm so excited. We have finally finished.
Why can't I do anything?
Hi guys! I just want to jump in really quickly before this vlog starts to give you a little bit of context. I started filming this vlog literally at the start of October, and that is what you are about to see. I am actually decorating for spooky season in this vlog. But as you'll hear as we go into the vlog, a lot of big and really hard things happened towards the end of September and the start of October, and it made it really difficult to film. You guys now know that I took an unannounced break during that time because I disappeared and then reappeared. And I did consider, because of how late this vlog is, not posting it, but the footage in this vlog is just so precious to me. There are some beautiful moments in here with Harry. Amye came to visit, and there's some fun things with my mum. So I hope that you don't mind that I'm taking you a little bit back in time with this special vlog. And thank you guys for sticking around through all of the hard times, because you make coming back to this channel again and again a joy. And welcome to a new vlog. I'll apologise right now for any snoring that you may hear in the background of this vlog. Grissom is right next to me and he is completely spark out, and he very much takes after his daddy because lovely spouse Harry snores like a foghorn. In fact, there have been a few occasions during the night where I have recorded Harry on a voice memo to Harry and sent it to him just so that he can hear exactly what he sounds like in the background. Anyway, this vlog begins at somewhat of a challenging time in the month for me. We are halfway through October right now. We are fully into pumpkin season, and I have finished 2 of the gargantuan list of books that I have on my TBR pile for this month. If you already follow me on my Instagram account or you are a member of my Patreon page, then you will already know this sad news. But just in case you don't, a couple of days ago we unfortunately lost our sweet little Munch. I said I was going to do this without crying, and I lied. You guys know that we have a lot of fur babies and a lot of scale babies, and they are the only babies that we are ever going to have. Whew. And we love them very much. Luckily, in a way, Munch was just a week shy of 13, and Munch had a very happy life with us. Over the last sort of week and a half, Munch had started to really rapidly lose weight. He'd already started to quiet down in his old age and he wasn't as interactive or up for hugs as he used to be. We decided we'd give him a couple of days over the weekend and then we would take him to the vet first thing on Monday, and we did. And unfortunately they found multiple masses in his liver which were far beyond treatable. And so we had to make the really difficult decision to have him put to sleep, and we did it pretty much then and there because he was in pain and there was nothing really we could have done to alleviate it. And then 2 days later I got food poisoning, and it's never great to get another thing on top of chronic illness. So food poisoning on top of just like how my body runs in general, it's not the one. It's not the one. And so because of all of this, I have just not had the brain to read, either because I was too sick to concentrate or because I was just thinking constantly about Munch. I, like everybody else, go to reading to kind of lift me out of myself and take me away from my life. But I've discovered that there are select times when reading just doesn't help, and that's when I'm really having a bad time in my head, because I think in order to read, no matter how you're consuming it, whether it's audiobook or audiobook and text or ebook or physical book, doesn't matter. However you're consuming it, it requires you generally to either sit quietly in your own body and consume the words, or to keep yourself busy enough with other tasks that you can zone out and listen, and I couldn't do either of those things. So I find myself here once again not having read very freaking much, and it's annoying. So the theme of this vlog is going to be read as much as possible. That's it. That's the only requirement. We are just going to read as many books and finish as many books as we possibly can. And I am going to have 2 teammates in this vlog, 2 teammates who are going to help me to finish all the pages. The first one was generously sent by the sponsor of today's video, Serious Readers. You may have spotted him in the background. It's very sexy. He also needs a name. We should name him in today's vlog. That should be another goal. Serious Readers' philosophy is to light up your life indoors. Their lamps are designed to, as closely as possible, replicate natural daylight to give your eyes the best possible chance. They don't just want to assist with the comfort of your reading experience, they actually want to assist with the health of your eyeballs. Straining your eyeballs in low light, particularly reading some of the really dense fantasy books that I do, with the teeny writing and the teeny mass market paperbacks, is really not good for the longevity of your eyeballs. But more on the wonders of this technology later on in the video. For now, I will just say that Serious Readers are my first partner in crime. They are going to be coming through for me both on the dark winter nights and in the actual dark nights, you know, when the insomnia kicks in. And my second partner in crime for this vlog is going to be the wonderful Amye. Amye is coming down to visit us again. This time she is staying in my house on this very couch, and our plans essentially involve a lot of reading and not much else. Well, actually that's a lie. We're also going to go to the zoo and go for food countless times, but mostly we're just going to be in here reading, shoving words into our eyeballs. That is the purpose of this vlog. And we should probably, you know, go on some autumnal walks and get some fresh air in between stuff, I guess. Serious Readers and other people tell me that daylight is actually good for you. I don't know, I'm skeptical. I'd just live off Iron Brew if I could. Tripod going to stay here for this entire update, balanced precariously on my bed, held by one 800-page book and a tissue box? Maybe. But hey, if you faceplant, at least you'll get a soft landing, right? So as you saw, it's day 1 of Amye's visit. We went and picked her up. We had a lovely reunion, which of course I got 0 footage of because we were too busy hugging the crap out of each other. We went and had some much needed food, and then we went to Tesco and got lots of snacks for the rest of her visit. And now it's very, very late at night, but I do have a couple of updates for you. So first up, I did start The Whistling by Rebecca Netley, and guys, it is everything that I had hoped that it would be. It is giving me hardcore, pristine, Gothic vibes with just a little bit of levity. And by levity, I don't mean that there's levity in the writing, because the writing is very serious. It's very ominous. Our narrator has got on a boat and she has travelled through a pea super, through hardcore mist and fog and choppy seas to get to this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere. And she has met some characters. And you know when in a Gothic novel the heroine does all this travelling and then first spots the place where she's going to stay, like the first time that Jane Eyre catches sight of Thornfield Hall, or our unnamed narrator comes up the driveway to Manderley, and while the structure on the outside looks perfect but definitely imposing and ominous, and then they get inside and it's not perfect anymore, there's just that little hint of rot in the walls. That is exactly what this book has given me so far. Like, that has been the exact format, and oh, it's amazing. But what I mean by levity is that the writing is not bogging me down. The descriptions are sharp and they're getting under my skin, but they don't last for paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. There's a kind of pace to the writing that you don't often get in a Gothic thriller, and it's just perfect. It is just, I love it so much. And I have to take my hat off to the narrator, because she is delivering this like sing-songy Scottish accent, and I think the character is meant to originally be from Edinburgh, and that definitely comes across. But also there's this kind of like, I don't know, she could be from the Highlands. It's a very melodic accent, and it's beautiful. Like, the narrator feels like she was meant to narrate classic Gothic books, and oh, it's making me so happy. So I've listened to a fair bit of that now, and we are starting to get into the creepy question portion of the narrative, and yeah, I am very happy with it. And there have been a few promised developments in Harry and I's reading. So we have finally finished Ship of Magic. I am so pleased with us. And so I have officially got Madship sitting here waiting for me to start reading aloud, although it is absolutely not going to be tonight because it's really late. But you can probably tell by the lighting, or maybe you can't, because I do have my Serious Readers compact desk lamp as my bedside lamp now. Is it bright? Hells yeah. Does that mean that I don't need to have the big light on to be able to see like right in front of my face? Also yes. And does it mean that this little guy, who has served me well for a long time, is now out of service with his sort of weird, I don't know, blinding blue, or I'm stuck under a 70s lampshade colours? Does that mean that he's retired? Yeah, it do. It absolutely do. I'm going to keep him next to my bedside in case we ever have a power cut, because this one is a mains fed one, unlike my tall Serious Readers lamp, which is of course a rechargeable one. But this one is battery operated, so I'm just gonna keep him around in case, you know, the worst happens and I need a light up here in an emergency. I'm very risk averse as a person. But yeah, you might not be able to tell like how late it is and how murky it is because I have this lamp on, and it's doing amazing studio lighting. Anyway, back to the books. Like I said, we won't be reading this one tonight. We won't be starting it tonight, but it is now here. We are moving on to the Madship portion of this vlog. This one I think is the longest out of all of Robin Hobb's books. This is 906 pages long. And then lastly, I'm really scared I'm gonna knock you over. Lastly, I am still reading If I Don't Make It, I Love You. And I have a lot of quite complex thoughts on this. So I'm on page 100 of 494, and this one is a really difficult one for me to give commentary on. The book itself is really important. It has a lot of like deeply important messages in it, and I also love that in this narrative, the two editors, Amy Archer and Loren Kleinman, they didn't just seek palatable victim narratives. So they didn't just go to democratic parents who wanted to talk about gun violence and wanted to, you know, stop this from ever happening again, of course, in telling their story, but have very sort of PC views on the whole thing. They also went to a few parents who are Republicans, and one in particular who really loved Trump. And so it's a very unbiased narrative. It's a very unedited narrative in a lot of ways. Okay, my phone died, so I've had to switch to Harry's phone now. And again, you're precariously perched. Anyway, so yeah, they didn't just go for palatable statements. They have really allowed the victims and their families and the survivors of these events to tell their true story, to be completely open and honest, and to say anything that they want to say. And that's amazing. That has been really hard, but really worthwhile, I think, for me to read, and for anybody, you know, outside of this set of circumstances to read. And they're very complex views about gun violence, because it, of course, in the States, it is a very complex issue which has a lot of different sides. No matter how I personally feel about it, in the States there's obviously a lot of politics and religion and a lot of history to this debate. Do I think the book is doing what it set out to do? Yes. But all of that being said, I have some major issues with it, and they are entirely about the way that this book is structured and about the editing of it, or I'm going to be perfectly honest, the lack thereof. So 100 pages out of 494 pages, and occasionally when you read a book, any book, there are going to be typos. There are going to be maybe double words or weird spacing or stuff, maybe once, maybe even twice in a 500-page book, but multiple times within 100 pages, so much so that I'm at the point where I'm like, I want to get a pen and mark every single one of these instances so that I can look at them cumulatively at the end and see how many there were. The instances of like and, of double or triple spacing, of incorrect words used that could have been picked up by an editor, there's just so many of them. And for such an important book, I'm like, why? Why was there not more attention to these little details? Because all this needed was for somebody like me, who had never read it when it was being compiled, to look through it and to be like, oh, there's some issues, before it went to first printing. Like, it needed edited more. And I'm angry about it because it's pulling me away from the narratives, because I am seeing all of these mistakes. And the other thing that I am really hating is that in between every section where we're introduced in the timeline to another school shooting, and again we're moving backwards through the years of the school shootings, we get this cover page, and then we get 2 to 4 pages of commentary from the two narrators, from Amye Archer and Loren Kleinman. And in their commentary, they're not just giving you facts about what happened, they're not just telling you about the school shooting and about like how many victims there were or the circumstances around it so that you have some sort of understanding. They are quite often actually prefacing what you are about to read directly from the victims in their own words. They are often telling you, before you even get there, about what it is you're going to find. And A, it's really reductive, and B, it takes the impact away from the statements of these victims if I already know exactly what they're about to say, because you basically just told me. And I just don't know why it's there. The other thing that I really hate is that in those sections they talk a lot, and I do mean a lot, about how they felt about pulling together these narratives. They talk about how difficult it was for them, how much they were traumatized by it, how much time they spent holding each other up through the process. And yes, if you are putting together something like this where there are a lot of victim narratives all threaded together and you're constantly reading about and consuming trauma, it is going to impact you. That is just a given. That's a thing that's going to happen. But by talking constantly about how these victims traumatized them with their narratives, they're centering themselves, they're not centering the victims, and it's really bothering me. really bothering me, and I'm getting to the point where I just want to skip those sections entirely. Not to be harsh, but I don't really care about how you feel in this instance. I want to know about how the people who went through this and survived it care. And yeah, I don't know, it's a really unbalanced book so far, and there's a lot of things in it that I just think could have been done so much better, and I feel really crap saying that about a book about this topic, which is so important. But I think, again, as I've said 100 times before when I've talked about true crime or memoir, you are not necessarily critiquing the experience of the people involved, you are critiquing the construction of the narrative and the pacing of the way that the story is told and the way it's presented to the reader. And in those instances, I think this one is failing in a lot of places, and I think it's letting the victims down in a lot of places, which is kind of upsetting. All of that said, it's time to go to freaking bed. We, I think, are either going out for food and then just going to lie about and read tomorrow, or we are going to the zoo. I don't know which. You will know by the time that you see my next update. I'm very tired. Good night.
Hello. Some of you will be incredibly jealous to know that I am behind the camera in Leanne's library / study, and I am slightly overwhelmed by how many books there are in here. It's amazing, and I want to read something off of Leanne's shelves while I'm here visiting, and I've really been in the mood for graphic novels, so I have been directed to the graphic novel shelf and I'm going to go and pick something. So I've picked two graphic novels, the first one being Sheets by Brenna Thumler. I've heard a lot about this and I've heard that the art style is beautiful, as is evidenced by the cover. This is about a little ghost called Wendell who ends up in a laundromat, and I think it's just all the adventures and hijinks that happen there. So I'm looking forward to reading this tonight. Second is The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. Leanne has raved about this one and I'm really keen to read it, and it's very short, so I feel like this won't take me long at all, but it looks cozy and very cute. The little dragon on the front is adorable.
there's
the
one
water.
there's one in the water though.
That's me! Oh.
Oh.
No.
Oh no, right, but wait, there's a way to... Oh. Oh, Harry, why? Oh, Vera, why?
I need a smoke, why? I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna go and get that life. Why can't I do anything? What do we do here now?
I don't know.
Oh, you go down again.
Okay.
And then through that way.
What way? Where? Oh.
Bitch, where? There.
Bitch, where?
There.
Oh.
Woo! I love working
Where?
things out. Problem solving.
I love working things out. Hi guys, so I have just sat down to start filming, hence the horrendous studio light. It's my least favourite part of winter is having to film with this thing on. It just like high defs all of your pores and imperfections. Kind of like going to a traditional store to try on clothes where you know that you're going to be under like an FBI spotlight and have a fun house mirror in front of you to decide whether in this outfit your left boob looks weird. Anyway, I have just finished The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. And guys, I absolutely freaking loved it. You know that I'm obsessed with the cover of this one and the blurb, and the start of it just had perfect gothic vibes. But sometimes I find that books like this, which are all of the vibes and set up, tend to get into the middle of the book and not know where they're going. I'm looking at books like The Silent Companion by Laura Purcell or The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton, which just had all of the perfect bones of a gothic book but just never really got off the ground for me. Or in some cases got off the ground and then landed messily with lots of bits splattered on trees. But The Whistling it did none of that. It kept building momentum throughout the entire book. And even when I felt like I didn't have brain to take in some books, like there was no chance I was processing a really complex plot, I always wanted to pick this one up. And like I said, it's been hard to read recently, so when that happens, I also had absolutely no idea what I was in for in this book because the blurb gives away comparatively so little compared to what is actually in the plot. It actually reminds me of The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins in that way, and that the blurb delivers you something which is like scandalous and tantalising and ooh, I want to get into that. But then every single section drops you a new piece of the mystery that could have been in the blurb, but it just isn't mentioned, so it kind of feels like when you're on the waltzers and you think that you've got the rhythm of it and then somebody spins your cart and you're like, holy crap, what's going on now? So I'm really torn because I feel like telling you guys some of the things that get included in the plot, some of the themes that pop up later on, would be things that would really sell it to you if you love the books that I love. But then also potentially you lose the magic of finding out these things throughout the book. But all of that gushing praise said, I did say it was nearly perfect, and that's because there is one problematic trope in it that I see used again and again in gothic novels which just needs to die a death. It just needs to stop being included. Publishers need to put more of these kinds of books, gothic books with like creepy, insidious themes, through sensitivity readers before they publish them. And I'm going to tell you what that is, so if you want zero spoilers then maybe just like skip to the end of this section. But the thing that I'm going to talk about is not huge in terms of plot, it's just huge in terms of I really hate it. So one of the women on the island that Elspeth interacts with has a facial disfigurement. She had an accident when she was younger, I won't tell you what, but it is something that has produced a very visible scar on her face, and it's a scar that she is genuinely quite sensitive about. And at first this was handled really well in that the only time that Elspeth really has a conversation with this person about her scar, she says that the reason that she is quite happy living on Skelsey and that she has never wanted to go to the mainland is because she's lived all of her life on Skilsea since she was a little girl, and nobody looks at her differently. But one day she did take a boat to the mainland for a trip, and she did get a lot of very unkind comments and stares, which really put her off the idea of moving out of her little town where she feels safe and accepted and not judged. And I thought that that was a really lovely way of handling it, and the way that it is folded into the narrative makes sense for the plot, so it's not like let's just take 10 minutes to address this character's facial disfigurement that makes them different. The conversation came up organically, and it allowed the character to say how she felt about her own face. But later on in the book, in the last third of the book, Elspeth is really angry at this character for a variety of different things, which again I can't get into without spoilers. And in her anger, she says a lot of unkind things, which I think some are justified, some are just said out of anxiety and rage, and you can understand why they're there. She's having a very human reaction to what's going on. But one of the things that she says is something about this character's face and their disfigurement, and how the inside of them and how their moral character is kind of showing through in their face for everybody else to see. And I was so angry because I was like, all of the good work that you did earlier on in this plot to normalise this and not make it a huge thing, to allow this character to have agency over their own story, you have just undone. You've just undone all of that in an angry moment. And I know that it makes sense for Elspeth to be having angry thoughts at this moment. She feels like she's been done dirty, like she's been lied to the entire time she's been there. It makes perfect sense. But for the rest of the entire novel, she's been quite a kind and compassionate character when it comes to people's differences and when it comes to accommodating different ways of doing things. And so it feels really out of character for her to suddenly attack somebody's appearance like that. And I don't know, the whole thing just left like a really muddy taste in my mouth, and I was just like, you almost did it, you almost made it perfect, but then you fell back on a trope that just didn't need to be there. And that's what it really comes down to. It's a trope that just does not need to be included. No more. No more in horrors, no more in thrillers, no more in fantasy. I do not want to see physical disfigurements or mental illness used as manifestations of people's bad choices, poor personalities, evil intentions. I do not want to be able to go, oh, that person is the person who did it because that person is the person who looks physically different. All of that said, the rest of the book was genuinely perfect. But if that is a deal breaker for you, then I can totally understand why you would maybe just want to give this one a miss. I will definitely be pre-ordering anything that Rebecca Netley writes in future, particularly if it's another kind of like gothic, sinister mystery of a book. But I will also be looking out for more things like this, and if it happens again in her next book, I will stop picking up her books. Because you know, there ain't anything more powerful than voting with your feet and with your money. Okay, I suppose I have put off filming this video for as long as I can. I best go do that. Wish me luck and better lighting. And more book finishing. There needs to be more book finishing in this vlog. Because I just took for that.
You sure?
Aye!
I don't think you did, you know.
I bloody well did.
I think you're telling
I
porkies.
think you're telling porkies.
Aren't you cheating?
Someone cheating round here.
Aye, she keeps saying to me, whose shot is it? Like, I'm supposed to know. And then when I do something after it, she's like, oh no, I don't think that's the right thing. It's you.
You sure?
Aye. Hi, hello. So, as you will now know from the beginning of this vlog, there has been a little bit of time that has passed since the start of filming this vlog and the update that I am giving you now. The best part of this update, which is really nothing to do with the books, is that life seems to have finally settled down. We've had our little cabin holiday, which is also a vlog that you're going to get very soon. Let's hope it's not as difficult as trying to unpick one of the books I'm about to talk to you about's timeline. But yes, we've had our little cabin holiday. We had a few days at home afterwards to, you know, like tidy, cleanse our space, chill out. And we are now happily settling into the festive portion of the year. That's how long the gap has been in updating this video. But sometimes life be like that, and I was just so overwhelmed. I think I can even see it in the clips of myself right at the beginning of this. I was just so overwhelmed trying to vlog and continue to do normal things while just everything was falling down around my ears. I do feel like both myself and my mental health are doing much better than we were at the beginning of this vlog. So in the last chatty clip that we had, I was like, there needs to be more book finishing in this vlog. So I am here to bring you many book finishes, some of which I didn't even talk about earlier in the vlog. First of all, let's just finish discussing If I Don't Make It, I Love You. And the reason that I don't have the book with me to hold up and show you is because I have already unhauled it. That was how mad I was at that book. Some of the victims' statements and the victims' families' discussions in this book are pretty invaluable, in my particular opinion, to the discussion that is going on right now in the States over gun violence. Some of the narratives in here were so hard to read that even though they were like tiny sections, I had to take a step away or read them in chunks because they were harrowing. But the actual essence of this book and all of the things that are really important just get so lost in all of the typos, the weird choices in layout, and the really intrusive nature of the editor's commentary. I've already mentioned that at each section there's a big bit from the editor's perspective about how they felt about translating these stories and what's coming up in the next section and stuff. And not only was I annoyed, but by the end of it I was just baffled as to why they felt the need to put so much of themselves in a book that was fundamentally about other people and what their narratives could build on their own. It just felt so weird, and by the end of it I felt uncomfortable and annoyed and like it was just such a wasted opportunity, especially considering some of the narratives, some of the interviews and stuff that we get in that book are interviews that we have never got anywhere else. They're families who didn't want to talk to the media and this is their first opportunity to sort of get their side across, and so it just felt like it had done them dirty. And the amount, I wish that I was counting, the amount of typos, double words, wrongly capitalised things, commas used in the wrong way. Honestly, it's pretty horrendous. It almost feels like this was like 2 manuscripts back from the final one and somebody submitted the wrong one at the end to get published. And I hate saying this because it had the potential to be the next landmark book on this issue, but everything just like let it down. But the other things that I finished around about the time of this vlog, and I've had to go back to my Goodreads to look at the books that I was reading at the time that I was reading these and try and reconstruct my timeline. The other 2 books that I finished around about this time were my 2 book club books, one of them being Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And I've talked about that by this point in a few places on my channel. I have really enjoyed this, so much so that I went and got myself a hardcover version of it, and I have pre-ordered the sequel, Hellbent. It was just a really fun ride. Is it a perfect book? No, but did I really freaking enjoy it? Did it take me out of myself and make me keep reading? Yes. And it was a nice kind of twist on dark academia because it didn't feel quite as dark as some dark academias. It didn't feel quite as like ominous. It felt more like it was on the urban fantasy side of things, and I really enjoyed that. So yes, if you have liked any of my other urban fantasy recommendations on my channel, I would definitely say pick this one up. But the other one, the other book club pick for this period, and the one that I really want to talk to you properly about today, is The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. So The Ruin of Kings is the start of what I think is a 5-book epic fantasy series which is completed. The last book has now been released, which would seem perfect for me, right? Because I really do prefer books that are in either completed series or ongoing series that have been going on for a really long time, so that I know that there's a lot of reading material in front of me, and so I don't have to wait for the next installment, because often I feel pressure to go back and read the last installment to refresh myself, and it becomes a cycle of never actually getting to the last book in the series. And I was super excited because everybody that I really trust when it comes to epic high fantasy is like, this is just, it's perfect, it's great, I loved it, wonderful. But when I read it, there's just something about this book that I don't gel with, and I don't understand how it's happened. So as I've mentioned before when I've talked about this book, this has a weird timeline in that we are following a split perspective. We have Karen and we have Talon, and they are alternatively giving you the story of what has gone on. But you already know at the beginning of the book that the events have already happened, because the book itself, these two accounts, is being pieced together by a third unnamed party who has a lot of footnotes throughout the book telling you, oh, that was actually wrong information, or this is a belief in this world but it's actually not a real thing. And so the reading experience of that was really gripping, and I really enjoyed it because I was constantly like, wait, where are we? I have seen a few people who've reviewed this being like, this is the only book in the world that I've ever like made a chart for, made a mind map. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about this world is that a lot of the magic centers around reincarnation, and that when you are killed or when you die, you always come back as a few different options, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because that would spoil some of the plot. Reincarnation is a huge thing in this world, but before I go any further on this subject, I will say that that does mean that several characters do actually harm themselves in order for the reincarnation to happen. And so if that is something that you're sensitive about, I would wholeheartedly avoid this series, like completely avoid this series. And that's something that I haven't seen in a lot of people's reviews as a trigger warning. Nobody seems to really have discussed that in depth in the reviews that I've seen anyway, so I thought that I would mention that in case that's something that you haven't seen either. But I loved that magic. I love that magic so much because it added so many different layers to the characters who went through this process, and also it did mean that it became a little bit complicated trying to remember who was who, if you know what I mean. And so everything that I've said so far seems to suggest, you know, I'm really excited about it. I really liked how unusual it was. It was fun. The characters are really punchy. I love Talon. I love Talon so much. But there was just something that I didn't like. And I think maybe one of the things that could potentially have contributed to this is one bit of the magic system, which kind of has nothing to do really with the reincarnation, but is to do with different veils that Karen can see through. So he, as a thief in the very beginning, is going to break into a house, and he can change how he sees through these different veils that he perceives, and he can see like where the valuables are in the house without actually having to root through the house the way that a thief would. And the unnamed narrator who's putting together this manuscript has quite a lot to say about that, in that he's blatantly like, well, this is superstitious nonsense and you shouldn't listen to any of it, none of this actually exists. And because of that, because there was all these different belief systems about how this magic worked, and because there was never really a defined, solid magic system, I was like, I'm not buying it. I'm somebody who likes a magic system with like really stringent laws. This is how it works. This is what happens if you don't follow the rules. And I think that was my issue throughout, is that there's quite a lot of uncertainty in this book in a lot of places where I was like, but how does that work? But why is that happening? But you haven't really explained to me what this faction are doing. And so I feel like there's a lot of information that I didn't get that I should have got in this book, which is probably being saved for book 2. And while I understand why Jen Lyons did that, I'm also like, but I needed more information in this one in order to be invested enough to carry on to book 2, and so now I don't know what to do. It's only a 5-book series, so it's not like a massive amount of investment. It's not like I'm going into an extended universe of like 10 or 12 books. Part of me is like, if I pick up book 2, I'm immediately going to be invested enough that I'm going to have to carry on with the rest of the series. And the other half of me is like, pick up book 2 and read that, and then maybe you can make a decision. Because I have seen a lot of people who have reviewed this book say, if you didn't like book 1, book 2 basically does the same thing over again with this dual narration and somebody putting together a manuscript. It does the exact same thing over again. And so if you didn't like it in book 1, you're potentially not going to like that in book 2. However, the structure of the book was fine. It was all of the other parts. So yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So I still haven't made a decision. If you guys have an opinion on this, then I think that you should tell me and make up my mind for me, and just take the burden of making my mind up away from me. Yeah, I would like that. Thank you. Thank you. And apart from my reading, the only other update to give you is on my serious readers lamp and how they have changed my freaking life. I have never ever had a lamp like the serious readers lamp. I've never had a piece of furniture that I've been that passionate about before. Also passionate about the fact that Serious Readers is a UK based company who do everything themselves. They're a small family business team, and they're he's literally attached to me. He's just plonked himself down here to take part in this discussion. Yeah, they're a small family business who treat their employees really, really well and try to make it feel like a family atmosphere at work, and I just really, really appreciate that. I also really appreciate the fact that they offer guarantees on their lamps, so if anything goes wrong with your lamp, they'll fix it for you. They'll ship it back to you. They'll fix it and ship it back to you. Like, what more can you want? As I've said earlier on in this video, if you would like to get your hands on a Serious Readers lamp, you can use my code, which is on the screen or in my description box below, and you can get yourself a free compact lamp. So you can get this one, which is worth £150, guys. £150. You can get this one for free by buying anything from the Serious Readers range. Isn't that cool? So thank you once again to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you guys for sticking around with me even though I have been pretty slack on content the last couple of months while I've tried to piece my life back together. The enthusiasm that you show whenever I post a new video just is so heartwarming. It makes it worth it for me when I'm having really bad brain days to just pick up the camera and to record, knowing that you guys want to hear about my life and my pets, and it just, I don't know. I'm very, very thankful right now. I'm very thankful, and I care about this channel and you guys so much, so it's yeah, so it's pretty special. So with that, as always, if you have read any of the books that I've talked about in today's video and you would like to tell me about it, then please go down to the comments below and do so. You know that I love opinions here, and I will speak to you guys very soon. Very, very soon, actually, because I'm about to go film a clip for another vlog, so